Hello everyone and welcome to our GIMS special final talk session. Today's session is titled What They Didn't Tell You About Med School Interview, where we go beyond textbook advice and uncover the realities, challenges, and strategies behind succeeding in medical school interviews. My name is Kang and I'll be your moderator for today. We are joined by two amazing and mantap speakers. Xingyue from University Malaya, who is also a first-year medical student and JPA LSPN scholar, and Ewing Yap from University Malaysia Sabah, a first-year medical student and a Yayasan Tunku Abdul Rahman scholar. Let's give a big round of applause to all of our speakers. Both of our speakers today will be sharing their personal journeys and also honest insight with us. Before we start, to give you guys a quick idea of how today will flow, we'll begin with session 1, a rapid fire round, where both speakers respond to 5 common questions with just a simple yes or no. Then we will move into session 2, where we revisit those same questions and unpack the reasoning, experience, and strategy behind the answers. So, without further ado, let's begin with our rapid fire round. Speakers, please buckle up and respond with a simple yes or no without any explanation. For our first question, is I want to help people enough?
No.
No.
Okay, should I memorize model answer?
No.
No.
Okay. For the third one, is basic medical knowledge necessary and required?
I think somehow yes.
Yeah, somehow yes.
Okay. Then we will stay tuned for our session 2 for the further breakdown of this question. For the second last question, how many weeks should students take to prepare for the interview?
I think you can start as early as possible.
I would
Start
say
now.
around 3 weeks should be fine. Yeah, start now.
Okay, so we have 3 weeks. We also have starting as early as possible. So we'll move on to session 2 to see how different time constraints apply to different students. For the last question, should candidates read out on current healthcare issues?
Yes.
Definitely yes.
All right, thanks a lot. That was quick, and I'm sure some of these responses have already sparked curiosity among our audience. So, before we start, could our speakers share about how was their journey into medical school and how was the interview process for you guys?
So first of all, for me, I believe the journey into medical school wasn't just about getting good grades, which I think many interviewees and applicants already have that in hand. So what really stood out during the interview process and is how is it like felt different compared to the exam is I think that you shouldn't be preparing the answer, but more towards preparing yourself. So very quickly I realized it's not about like perfection, it's about how you think and communicate. So for once, I remember I was being asked for a scenario questions like an elderly patient in a village refusing treatment. I won't jump in to convince them immediately. I'll try to understand why and whether it's cultural belief or assessing issues. Then I explain the situations in a simple and respectful way, possible involving their family members as well. So ultimately, I'll respect their decisions while also ensuring they are fully informed. And for this interview experience really changed my perspective and also during the preparation process, I realized that many interviewers that they aren't about impressing them with how much knowledge in your mind, but showing your reasoning, your values, and your ability to stay calm under pressure. So if I would have to summarize my experience, I would say that the interviewers are more human than we are expect. They are not trying to catch you up like a robot detecting all your perfections, but they are trying to understand who you are. So, and also that's also a questions like you can think of how much of you have feels like the interviews are more stressful than the written exams. Yeah, I'll pass it to Sylvia to explain more.
Okay, thank you so much, Evelyn, for the answer. So for me, I think like my interview process, because I interviewed for like for medical school. I think the whole interview process was I think it's very challenging. So what I think most important I learned throughout the interview process is how to stay calm under stressful situations, like if you encounter a question that you did not read before or you do not have anything to say about, you still need to yap about it, and how to like encounter and reply to questions, and also like act like you are calm in front of the interviewer, and how to perform the best version of yourself to the interviewer. I would say that's what I learned throughout the interview process. Okay, then I'll pass back to Kao Kang.
Thanks a lot, speakers. I think it's great to hear from Evelyn that the interviewer was not as scary as we thought. And for senior part, remember that we could yet, a senior mentioned that we should yet in a structured process so that we can answer the questions in a calm manner. So let's now dive into the questions in session one and revisit into what those answers really means. Let's start with the first question. Is saying I want to help people enough? Because there's something many applicants say, and it's clearly that it may not be enough on its own. So building on that, what qualities do medical school interviewers actually value? And what truly differentiate a strong candidate from the rest?
Okay, then as for this question, I think I can go first. So, first to reply the first question, I think I want to help people is definitely not sufficient for a 5 minute answer, because most like interview questions are like 5 minutes. So like just one sentence, I want to help people is definitely not enough. But I think what is the most important part is that when you answer the interview questions, remember to be genuine, because everyone has different reasons why they want to enter medical school and why they want to step into the medical field. So maybe not everyone, their reason is not, maybe their reason is to help others, but that might not be the only reason. So the key is to find your own inspiration, find your own passion, find your own why you want to enter medical school, because I think this why is not just to answer the interview question, but it is to help you and motivate you and encourage you through the 5 years throughout medical school. So you need to find your own why first before you decide why you want to enter the medical field, and use this reason to explain it during the interview. And remember to be genuine, because like a lot of people tend to make up stories during the interview, but the interviewers are mostly very, very experienced and they have interviewed a lot of people. So if you are lying or if you are making up stories, they will catch you at that point. They will definitely catch you one. Yeah, so remember to be genuine and answer what is true only. Yeah. And also, I think you can also try to like show your passion in your answer, because uh, if you want to study medicine, I think you are passionate to study medicine, but because you need the passion in order to survive through the 5 years. So, in summary, the most important thing is to find your passion and elaborate that passion in the 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay, then I'll pass to Evelyn.
All right. Thank you, Sylvia, for pointing out a very like important thing aside genuines. And honestly, I want to help people. This statement is really a good starting point for you to enter med school. However, it's not enough for you to make you to stand out in the interview process. And the reason is almost every applicant say the same thing. So if you stop here, you don't really show anything unique about yourself. So instead, maybe you can try to figure out why medicine are specifically. If you want to help people, why don't you choose like firefighters, nursing, police? There are so many career that does the same thing as well. So why medicine? So at the end of the day, the interviewers are not just looking for your kindness, they are looking for your clarity and your determinations behind it. And moving on to the second question is about like what qualities the interviewers value the most. For my experience, there are like three main qualities that interviewers really will take note of. First is, I think is almost same with Singria's opinion, is the authenticity, as they can tell like whether your answers are polished and memorized, as it sounds rehearsal. So this would really makes your answer less memorable and less unique. And second is the clarity of the thoughts. Even though your answer isn't the perfect one, however, if you can explain your reasoning clearly, it shows your mind to be mature. For example, in some ethical questions, they often have no single answer. But then, if you have a very clear thought process for standing both sides, it will also stands out. And the third one is empathy, especially in scenario-based questions. For example, if you are dealing with the elderly patient I mentioned just now, they are not just looking for a solution. They are looking at how's your thought process, how you consider the patient's feeling, the background, the autonomy, how you convince them in a kind and clear way. So this also links back to clearer earlier question. I want to help people is not enough unless you can demonstrate it through your thinkings and examples. Yeah, I think that's all from me. I'll pass back the floor to the moderator. Thank you.
Well, okay, that's actually a very great insight from both our speakers. So for our audience, first of all, it's definitely a red flag for lying and making out stories in interview, as genuine and also authenticity stand out the most. So interviewers wants to know what not only what you want to do, but actually why and how you actually demonstrated it. Okay, so Evelyn mentioned that memorizing answers sounds rehearsed and not authenticity. So moving on to the next questions, a lot of students actually rely on broad memorization. Could both our speakers explain why memorizing model answer is not effective? And additionally, what are some other common mistakes applicants usually make during medical school interviews? And how can they come by to avoid that?
All right, thank you, Kokang. Maybe I'll try to approach this question first. So, in my mind, I think one of the biggest mistakes that applicants make is like over preparing in the wrong way. So, for example, many people memorize the model answers from seniors, ChatGPT, or any resources they have. But during the interview, if the questions is slightly twist and they struggle to adapt with the new questions, as this also creates stress during the interview process as well. As one common mistake is like we are trying to memorize all the big and bombastic words. However, if you are not truly understand those bombastic words, you end up sound unnatural. So instead, we can use the words that's like give better, simplified, and also clarity. So rather than memorizing these standard answers, you can practice by explaining your experience in a different way. For example, you can practice with a mirror in front of you, talking in front of your friends or family members, do mock interviews with our GMS mentors or with your friends and seniors, all this. So, and the other mistake is like during the interview, we seems to like try to answer in a very short time. However, this thing will create a rushing to answer without any thinking process. So actually, during the interview, it's okay, it's totally fine for you to take a very short pause, like a few seconds, 20 seconds, to make your answer more structured in that way. So as for what I mentioned just now, interview is to prepare yourself, but not to prepare the question itself. Okay, I'll pass it to Sylvia to explain further.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn, for the answer. So, from my opinion, like the most common mistakes that some applicants make is that sometimes they tend to answer irrelevant to the question. Like, for example, maybe the question is asking you how you encountered failure, but then the applicant may answer like may just describe about the failure, like what happened during the situation, but they did not describe the what happened after that, like how they encountered the failure, what action did they take in order to like encounter the failure. So sometimes uh applicants tend to like answer just half of the question. So whenever you receive a question, remember to read the whole question and uh try not to like straight away answer when you get the question. You can take your time, take a deep breath first before you start answering, just like what Evelyn said just now. You can always take a pause and think about what you want to say first before you start it's better than you start like straight away and your answer is very messy all around. Yeah, so that's the first point. And then sometimes some applicants may be too one-sided on their answers. For example, if the question asks you to discuss about a certain topic, like discuss about genetically modified fetus, then some applicants may just talk about the pros of genetically modified fetus. However, you need to remember that for a lot of topics, we have pros and cons about the topic. So it's always better for us to explain about the pros and explain about the cons. Then after that, give a conclusion of what you think. Does the pros outweigh the cons, or does the cons outweigh the pros, or does it achieve a balance, and how do we achieve the balance? So by having this structure in your answer, you can like have a longer answer in order to answer for 5 minutes or longer or shorter. So, and you can be more holistic in your answer, which the interviewer can hear more points that they want to hear from your answer. And one last point is that sometimes some of the applicants tend to be overgeneralized about their answers, like they just give some general statements about the question, but actually you can also insert some of your personal experience in the answer. For example, you can give examples of how you manage your time well in a question. Like you set a timetable, you use this app, you use tomato pomodoro technique. Yeah, try to give like more specific answers so your answer can be more holistic, more specific, and the interviewer may also be amazed by your answers because the examples that everyone give may be different, and that might be the point that makes you stand out from the other interviewees. Yeah. Okay, then I'll pass back to Kalkan.
Thank you a lot, speakers. Well, I really love the quote from the speaker saying that for interview, we should prepare ourselves, not prepare for the questions. Because interviewers most of the time are looking for not looking for the perfect answers, but rather how you think and respond in the moment. So when answering, it's also important to consider both pros and cons to that question also. In session one, we'll also touch on some basic medical knowledge on whether it is required. So if strong medical knowledge is not necessarily the deciding factor, then what actually helps the candidate stand out during the interview, especially when many applicants already have strong academic results?
Okay, then for this question, I think I can go first. So because a lot of applicants, as you know, have strong academic results already. So how do you stand out from the other interviewees? The first one is that you need to stay calm. So remember to stay calm, take a deep breath before you start answering, because that calmness and the vibe and the aura you give may amaze the interviewer, because not every interviewee is as calm as you. So remember to stay calm and organize your thoughts first before you start answering. And besides that, you can stand out by structuring your answer in a very good way, like just what Evelyn and I mentioned. Try to structure your answer like you have an introduction, and then the pros, and then the cons, and then the conclusion. If you have a structured answer, it's easier for the interviewer to absorb all the points that you give, and it's also for them to like analyze your answer and get what you want to say. Instead, if you have a very messy answer, they might not get the point, even though you already mentioned the point, but because of your structure, they might not get it at that point. So try to like structure your answers so they can think, oh, this person is a very structured person, very organized and very systematic student. So like you might stand out from the other interviewees. Yeah. And then another point that how to make you stand out of the interview is to take care of your appearance. I think this is a quite crucial part also, because when going to the interview, remember to wear appropriate clothings and outfits, because even the small details, like maybe you wear a very nice baju kurung, then the interviewer might think that, wow, this person, her clothes are very nice, then the interviewer remember you already. So you never know what will amaze the interviewer. So try to take care of every small little details, not just about your answers, but also your overall looking and appearance. Yeah. Okay, then I'll pass to Evelyn.
All right, I really like your perspective, especially when you mentioned about the aura thing. All right. So in real life, like the interviewers may encounter a lot of candidates. So if two candidates can give like very similar answers, however, if the one who can communicate calmly, more structured answers, and can maintain the appropriate eye contact as well, instead of staring on the cardboard they give, you can also make eye contact with the examiner, and this will naturally come across as more reliable and more confident vibe. That's called aura lah. Yeah. So, and on top of that, I also believe that self-awareness is very crucial. Candidates who have like who can reflect honestly on their experience. For instance, if like saying that there was a challenge for me, but this is what I learned from it. The reflection itself actually shows the maturity and also your ability to grow, which is very, very important in the healthcare setting. And from a broader perspective, it's also not about just the content of the answer, it's about how a person thinks under pressure and communicates that thinking. So overall, standing out less is less about being perform the best or like having the perfect answer. It's more about demonstrating and your emotional awareness, your structured communications. So ultimately, you have to relate it and link it about what's the essential qualities in a doctor who has to make a decision and communicate with patients and also work effectively and efficiently under pressure. Yeah, I'll pass the floor to Kao Kang. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for both our speakers. It seems that how we present ourselves is more important and way more important in the interviews. It's in a way it's more about your perspective and how you approach problems rather than what we already know. So as what Evelyn and Senior say, impress the interviewers with your aura, how you present yourself and how your demeanor are. And earlier we also asked about how many weeks students should spend preparing. And it seems that we have quite a debate between both our speakers. So beyond the amount of time, I think what really matters is that how both our speakers use the time and allocate their time to prepare for the interview. And looking back, if you could prepare again, what would you do differently? And what should the student focus on in the weeks leading up to the interview to make sure that their preparation are truly effective?
All right, so I'll try to approach this question. If I was given the opportunity to prepare again, I would definitely change my approach, as it will be mentioned by I will spend less time reading and also more time in practice speaking. For example, I will like try to record myself in a voice recorder, try to practice with friends in mock interviews, and try to answer the same question in different way. Because I believe during my time, I was too focused on reading all the materials as there was like a very huge amount given by seniors and GMS like mentors as well. So I believe that in the real interview, the questions are very unpredictable. You can't rely on any memorized answer. You need to adapt on the fast thinking process. And another thing I will focus on is also reflecting on my own experience. For example, instead of listing what achievements you have achieved in your pre-university, in your secondary school, I will also think about like what I learned from them. What is the experience that those events and those leadership experience bring to me and how they shape my interest in medicine field. So overall, I believe the preparation should be active and not passive, not in a passive way. In terms of like preparing, you could also focus and spend more time in speaking and reading out loud. So because if you are only memorizing it, you can't really think of it like in the first sense. So it's not about how much is you know, it's about how well you can express and also apply it in the real life situation. And I'll pass to Xingyue for more clarifications.
Okay, thank you, Evelyn. So, for myself, last year I started preparing after PSBM because like there was a 1 or 2 weeks gap after PSBM before my interview, so I started the preparation after my exam. But for this year, I heard that the interview was quite early, so I would suggest the applicants and the interviewees to start preparing during your free time because I would say it's a consistency is the key in order to like get more information and also like get you the habit of immersing yourself in the information of the medical field. So what you can do is like during your free time, you can try to like search up for some of the topics like when you're having your lunch or during your free time waiting for a bus, you can already start reading on some of the medical news so that you're always up to date on the current health issues. And so it if you like utilize these little time frames, then you would know then you would not need a very large time frame, like a long period of time, like 1 to 2 hours to study for a certain topic already. Because you already use the small time frames to absorb the small medical knowledge. So when you absorb a little bit here, absorb a little bit there, then you have a lot of things to say during the interview already. Yeah. So, what would I do in order to if went back, what would I do differently to train for my interview? I would say I would try practice facing the mirror because I think one of my weakness is like I do not have much eye contact. When I'm thinking of something, I tend to like look at other places instead of the interviewer's eyes. So what I would do differently is I would try to practice in the mirror and see who am I looking at, like look at my own eyes, or try to practice with my friends and try to practice eye contact, because if you have more eye contact means that you have more confidence, and it also gives a better image of yourself to the interviewer. And also, I would try out more questions and not just rely on the mock MMI questions. I would like try to look out on more current health issues and try to not try to predict, like try to answer. If they ask me about this current issue, what would I answer? What information can I convey to them? Yeah, and I would also try to read out on more information on the news on the web so that I can be always up to date and be more prepared for the interviews. Okay, that's all from me. I'll pass back to Kao Kang.
Yeah, thanks a lot for our speakers. I think the stress is definitely real having the interview date being pushed forward for this year batch of pre-U students. And I think our speakers' answer provide us some insights that we should have an active approach towards practicing the interview, whereby we could speak in front of the mirror to check our body language or have more interview with our friends. And also, it's important for us to break down the whole preparation process into little time frames so that we could sort of build up our knowledge when approaching and in the weeks leading up to the interview. So for the final and last questions, we'll also discuss that candidates should read up on current healthcare issues. I think Singh also mentioned that we should allocate times and little time frame for us to read out on relevant healthcare issues and knowledge. So while this is often recommended, interviews can go beyond what you have prepared for. So could our speakers share some reliable resources or platforms that students can use to stay updated on healthcare issues? And additionally, what other unexpected or challenging situations did you guys face during interview, and how do you come by to handle them, especially in such a immense pressure?
Okay, then for this question, I think I can try to approach first. So like what resources or habits that I found helpful during the preparation would be try to, like what I mentioned just now, try to practice with my friends, because for last year I was very grateful to have a very good and helpful group of mentors and core mentees. So together with my mentors and core mentees, I was able to like practice a lot of questions with them. And by practicing with your friends, you can also find out that different people has different perspective and different ideas about a certain question. So you can like learn from them of how they approach the question, and also try to like learn about their ideas, how they think about a certain topic, and utilize it in your own answer so that your answer can be more holistic and well-rounded. Yeah. And also, for the platforms, I think one of the platforms that you can look out for more current health issues related topics would be Code Blue. Code Blue is a website that like has a lot of articles and also topics on the current health issues. You can also read up on some general newspapers like The Star, or search up on YouTube for like mock MMI questions, some sort of that kind of platform in order to like get more information about the current medical field. Yeah. And also remember to always fact check before you really use the answers in your interview answers, because I think the accuracy of the information that you provide to the interviewer is very important, because interviewers are all doctors or professors, so they are all very experienced and all very knowledgeable. So it's very important for you to fact check first before you utilize it. And if you don't have a friend, or like if you are staying alone, you can also try to practice with ChatGPT, or yeah, like utilize AI or like Gemini, because they can also provide you structured answers and feedback on your like interview answers. But remember to always fact check first before when you are using AI, because not all the information from AIs are accurate. And by doing fact check, you can also enhance your memory, because when you're actively reading the articles or topics, you can enhance your memory by reading the second time, because when you are reading the answers from AI, you're already reading the first time. Then when you fact check, you're reading the second time. So it kind of like enhance and the information in your brain. So during interview, you can like convey the answer more easily and in a more structured manner. And last but not least, what I found helpful is the GIMS event booklet, because the booklet contains a lot of information. So stay tuned for GIMS. Yay. Okay, then I'll pass to Evelyn.
Yeah, I also very agree with the JMS event booklet because it's very structured and also like it's very like step by step, like the four medical pillars and also some interview questions that was prepared in the JMS booklet. So it's a very good material for you to start off with your interview preparations. And I also like what Singya highlighted the code blue, as it's a very good website for you to check out the global healthcare updates. And also, not to mention, after you have reading all these articles and news, you shouldn't stop there. For example, if I read about like the vaccine hesitancies and or like the overcrowded public hospitals in Malaysia, I will not just remember the news. I will also ask myself, why is this happening? What are the ethical or social factors behind it? This kind of reflections will actually help in interviews, as this is what the interviewers would like to see. Because for general knowledge, I believe like some of us already have that in mind. However, what's the reflection and thought process? What can be improved in the public healthcare setting in Malaysia is what you have to like think about. So instead of like reading it, you can break it down into step-by-step methods so you can really absorb and understand what's truly facing in Malaysia. I think that's all from my side.
Thanks a lot for our both speakers. So the main resource mentioned is definitely our seniors, and one of it is definitely our GIMS mentors. And also we have different platforms such as Code Blue for us to refer our healthcare issues and also knowledge on. And it's important to have an active approach to it, just like what Evelyn said, to break it down and sort of analyze the article from different perspectives, such as ethical and etc. So I think that's pretty much sum up for our today Minor Talk sessions. Once again, I would like to thank and express my gratitude to both our speakers, Xingyue and also Evelyn, for sharing such honest and insightful perspective. I'm sure everyone now has already a clearer understanding that masculine interviews are not just about having the right answers, but about demonstrating authenticity, critical thinking, and the ability to handle uncertainty. To everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us. We hope this session has given you valuable insights for your own journey. That's all for today's Minor Talk sessions, and see you guys next time. Bye.